You can augment your chameleon husbandry by giving your chameleon some outdoor time. And today, I'm going to tell you how to create these planter box cages that will allow you to do just that. This design allows you to take a standard screen cage, put it on a planter box, and be able to roll your cage out in the sun or in the shade, in the rain, whatever weather you decide is good for your chameleon. And we know that as beneficial as unfiltered sunlight is, it can also be very dangerous if the chameleon doesn't have proper cover, and that is what this cage strategy does. By the end of this video, you're going to know how to put together a planter box cage for your chameleon. First, let's do a tour of what we will be building. This is a planter box. It's on casters, and it has a handle in back. That's simple, but it allows us to do incredible things. This is a newly built planter box cage. You see that the cage is just in there with one plant, and so it's going to need more foliage. And this is a planter box cage that is mature, and you can see how this provides all sorts of both basking opportunities as well as hiding opportunities. And so the chameleon can get into the sun or out of the sun. And of course, it's beautiful. So let's run down a list of features. First of all, this is a 12-inch high planter box. That is large enough that you can garden inside, and it gives enough root room for significant vines to grow. It is on casters. That allows you to move it in the sun, out of the sun, depending upon the weather. This up here are the handles. This is why I call these the handle levers. The handle is attached to the planter box using this cross beam, which takes the leverage of the handle and takes it all the way down to the front by the wheel. And that's as simple as you need it. Now, where do we get this plastic floor? That is actually the floor that comes with your standard screen cage. So that makes it really easy. Now, this is a build guide, and so I'm going to go into some detail. This will take a little bit of time, but I'm going to make sure that you're able to do it right, and you're able to walk into Home Depot or wherever you go into, and you buy what you need. So the first decision you're going to have to make is what kind of wood to use. You go into your home improvement store, you get the standard white wood studs that are somewhat inexpensive. Then there's redwood, and then there's pressure treated wood. All three of these will work, but as you may suspect, some work better than others. The wood that I use is the pressure treated wood, and that's the one that's going to last the longest. I have planter boxes much like this that have been going strong for 10 years. Redwood also lasts a long time. I have a redwood, one of these that's been lasting for 8 years now. The whitewood, if you seal it, then it will last. But I will say the one that lasts the longest is the pressure treated wood, so that's what I use. But you can use any one of those three as long as you understand what you're signing up for. Now, the pressure treated is what I use for the planter box. The handles back here are the white studs, and it's sealed and stained. This is easier for my hand. It's nice and smooth. I'd rather not be pushing pressure treated wood any more than I have to. Now, this here, the cross brace, the cross beam right here, this I did out of redwood fence slats. So I am using redwood, and the fence slat made it really easy to do a support. So I am actually using all three different kinds of woods. Like I said, just understand the properties of each of those. Now, the key to this design is that it can be made to fit any of the standard screen cages that you get your hands on. So no matter what screen cages are available to you, you can make this work. And the way we do that is you're going to have to make your own measurements as to the side pieces and the front back pieces. How do we do this? This is a bottom panel. This is what the bottom panel looks like in many of the screen cages that are available. Now, I know there's a lot of cages out there that have different floor panels, but you're going to have to adjust. But the standard, like Dragon Strand, Reptibreeze, Exoterra, All those cages have a bottom panel that looks like this, and something lays on top of it. Well, we're going to take that something that lays on top of it and actually use it on the bottom. That's where I got that plastic for the bottom. Put that aside for right now. Right now we need dimensions. And so if you see this bottom panel, pretty much the inside of this bottom panel matches the inside dimensions of the planter box. So that's what you're looking for. What you're going to do is you're going to go inside your cage, and the side panel is going to be the measurement of the inside of your bottom frame. Okay? And then the front back panel is going to be the measurement of the inside of the bottom frame from side to side. And by the way, here's a secret tip. If you are trying to measure the bottom of your cage and it's a real pain in the butt because there's someone in the cage already and it's really hard to get the measuring tape in there, don't worry. The top panel is usually the exact same. In fact, it's almost always the exact same as the bottom panel. So all you have to do is measure the top frame. And then we're going to add 1.5 inches for each one of these. And so I'm going to take this measurement, which right now just happens to be 21.5 inches. It'll be different for your cage. And then I add 3. So the length of this board, the front and the back, will be 24.5 inches. The length of my side pieces for this particular bottom frame is 20.75 inches. So that will be the 20.75 inches will be the dimension of this side, and then the 24.5 for this and 24.5 for that. Don't memorize those numbers because it's going to be different depending upon whether you have a Rep Debris, an Exoterra, or a Dragon Strand. But by understanding how to come up with those dimensions, you can apply this to any cage, ones that I've mentioned and ones that I haven't mentioned or I don't even know exist. So your first step is going to be doing those measurements and then cutting these pieces of wood. Everything else is going to wrap around that. So now it's pretty simple. You just get your wood out and you cut those 4 pieces of wood. In the past, I've used 2x6s, but in this design, I want to use a 2x12. On the last episode of the DIY Chameleon guys, I was talking with James Cross, and he suggested don't do 2 levels of 2x6s, just do 1 level of 2x12s. I did it for this design, and I am very happy with that. That simplifies the project immensely. Now, your challenge is to put together a box using these 4 pieces, and as simple as that sounds, in practice, getting everything to line up so they're 90-degree angles can be a challenge. So this is the way I'm going to show you how to do it. So to create this box, I am simply going to have 2 screws coming in from the front and the back, and those are going to connect the side pieces to the front piece and the back piece. Now I am going to pre-drill the hole in this first piece because I don't want the threads to catch on this piece. I want the threads to catch on this piece, and then the threads and the screw head to sandwich this together. And so what I'm going to do is pre-drill the hole here big enough so the threads don't catch, but not so big that the head goes through. And I'll just put this piece down on the ground, and I will get some scrap wood, put this up against it, draw a line with a pencil, and then it's going to let me know where I can drill these holes. And I do that on either side of the front and the back piece, drill my clearance holes, and then I'm going to use this magic piece of equipment. This is a corner brace. Now, I know many of you don't have one. Most of you may not have ever seen this or know that it exists, but what it does is it holds 2 pieces of wood at a 90-degree angle. So you just get your electric screw and zoop, zoop. Is it worth it to get these? If you don't, you can find another way to keep these at right angles, but I gotta tell you, I have tried every trick in the book. These make my life so easy, and it's worth investing in these because once you make one of these, you're going to get addicted and you're going to want to make a whole lot of them. I put 4 of these, I put them all together, and then I just get my electric screw gun and I put it all together. This is such a quick and easy process that you'll be wanting to do 5 of them just for the fun of it. All right, once we have our planter box together, we are gonna work on the bottom side. So first thing we're going to do is we're gonna take that plastic floor that came with your cage and we're going to tack it down. This doesn't have to be anything that's gonna hold forever, just very common small wood screws, just to keep it in place, because we are going to really cinch it down using these pressure treated 2x4s. And this is simply the measurement from the front to the back, whatever that happens to be for your cage. Just simply measure it and then cut 3 pieces of 2x4. Your 2x4 is going to attach to the planter frame by a screw here, 3 here, and 1 here, 2 on each end of this one, and then 1 here, and then 3 on the sides, and then 1 at the end. It's pretty simple, and on that one, I also drill these clearance holes, the larger holes, so the threads don't catch, just to make sure that this gets cinched down tightly to the frame. Now, if you drive a screw through here and the threads catch, you may actually pry this board off of the frame, and that's the exact opposite of what we want. That's just the way wood works. So I always pre-drill those holes. Now, as far as which screws to use, I use 3-inch screws. I've been using 3-inch screws for the frame, 3-inch screws to attach this lumber to the frame. The screws to attach this plastic, that can be like 3/4 inch. It's just to tack it down. It's not even entirely necessary, but I just like to do it, and it keeps it a little bit tighter. And once again, to figure out where to drill those initial holes, I just take wood and trace it along here, just so I know where to pre-make those holes, and it goes in quite nicely. Now, next, we have the casters. The difference between a caster and a wheel is the wheel goes in one direction, a caster will swivel. I like to get 4 to 5-inch casters, especially with the cheaper ones. There are some expensive ones that are better built, and I have started using those now and like them very much. But to attach this to the 2x4, I'm going to be using lag screws, and these are seriously heavy-duty screws that are meant to put metal to wood. Now, I do have a trick as to how I do the lag screws. I'm going to drill some pilot holes. Now, a pilot hole is different than what we've been doing before. A pilot hole is smaller than the threads, like half the size of the shank, the body of the screw. And what we're doing with a pilot hole is we're just trying to guide the screw in, but we want the full effect of the threads biting into the wood. So we only take a little bit out. What I do is I put all my casters in place and I drill 1 pilot hole for each of them. And the reason I do that is because if I drilled all 4 pilot holes, it'd be really easy for them to get shifted and not line up with the holes of the caster. And the reason is because when you have your drill, it hits this wheel and everything shifts. So what I do is I drill 1 corner of each of them, and then I fill it with wood glue. That's a trick I learned from James. And then I drive the lag screw into that 1 hole. Once I have 1 corner latched down for each one of these, I can go back and drill pilot holes for all the rest of them. And even if I hit the wheel, it's not going to shift the entire base here. And so it's a real pain when you hit the wheel, you shift the base, you drill the pilot hole in the wrong place, and it just becomes a mess. So it takes a little bit of extra time to do it this way, but oh my goodness, it has saved me so much misery in the end. Once you have your casters on, you're done with the bottom. I mean, this stuff, it goes very quickly once you know the steps to do it. The next thing we're going to do is this whole handle network, this lever here. You really want these because you don't want to have to push the cage around by getting down here. It's really tough on your back. I know because that's the way I started off. I didn't have these to begin with, and real pain. You don't want to push this thing around by the cage itself because that's not structurally sound. This, I use the 2x3s, and I just get an 8-foot 2x3. I cut it in half. I stain it to give it a little bit of protection, and then I attach it on the back panel. Now, the most important thing is, because we are going to be doing this cross brace, this lever handle, I call it, has to be flush with the side of the planter box. So you cut it, stain it, and then I do 3 screws in. I attach it, make sure it's flush with the side, and once you have that, we do the cross brace. And this just makes it easy to move around. I used to have it, you know, you can see over here. This is the reason why I have this this beam here. I used to have it just like this, and whenever my hands would get in there, the screen cage would keep bumping into my hands, and it was miserable and painful. So this one makes it really easy. I love it. Okay, so now this gets a little bit tricky because you're going to have to make 45-degree cuts. If you have a chop saw that allows you to move it to 45 degrees, that's wonderful. You may have to have a skill saw hand. Whatever you do, we need a 45-degree cut here. I take my redwood fence slat here, and I just put it on my saw, give myself 45-degree cut, and then I place the 45-degree with this edge all the way to as far to the front as I can. I didn't make it all the way on that one, but I should have. All the way to the front, and then I get my pencil and I draw down the side here so I can know where this lever is going to be. I take that drawing and I take it to the saw, zoom, cut it, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I only did 2. All right, should have done 3. And this is solid. And that, my friends, is your planter box cage. I then go in and drilled some drainage holes, and that's it. Now, you're going to say, well, that's not exactly it. There's a lot more that goes on. And say, yes, let's go over here and see what else to do. This is what a new one looks like. And the first thing that I do before I put this cage on is I fill it with soil, because it's a real pain in the butt to try to get soil, all this soil in through the door, and even the main plant. This one is a nice passion flower. It can hit on the top of the cage as you're putting it in, and sometimes I feel it's easier just to put the soil in, put the main plant in, and then slip the cage on over it. So once you get the cage down over it, it's a simple taking a drill and do one of these clearance holes, the one that's the size of the thread so the threads don't catch, and drill through the aluminum frame. You literally just take a drill and just drill through the aluminum frame, try not to get into the wood, and then you just drive a screw through that, and this cage is held on by screws that are going through the frame. Just make sure you don't accidentally hit one of these assembly screws. Other than that, it's pretty easy. And then your job is just to populate the cage. Now, if you look at this cage, you'll see this is a mature cage, wonderfully done. The way I did this is I had a center vine, like I started over here. And then you can see I have the hashtag. I have these dragon ledges that come from Dragon Strand. I just put them on there and mounted branches on the dragon ledges, and then the pots to the dragon ledges. So I've got these geraniums here that are mounted up so they help to fill in. That's especially important when you're just starting off. Right now, the vine is mature, and so it's growing over the geraniums to the point where the geraniums probably aren't getting enough light. But the geraniums served a very important purpose before the vine was fully mature. See, the one thing about having your chameleon out in the sun is there's no time for the plants to grow in. When you're indoors, there's a little bit of time. Okay, so they're not comfortable, they don't have the coverage they really would like, but it's fine. On a summer day, only a couple of hours will kill your chameleon if it's in direct sun and it can't get out. So it is mission critical to be able to give your chameleon some shade inside the cage. Now, if you absolutely cannot find the plants to give your chameleon the shade inside the cage, you can roll your cage under the patio so it only gets sun in the early morning. You can put shade cloth over the top or over the sides if you need extra protection from the sun. And that's not going to hurt your chameleon, because your chameleon can still get the sun through the front in the early morning hours. Now, it may challenge the growth of your plants because they're not going to get enough sunlight, which is food to them. But take a look at your situation and you can judge what you need to do. Just be very careful not to leave your chameleon out where it doesn't have a way to get out of the sun. Now, this is the advantage of doing a cage like this. First of all, you can see if the chameleon is up here, they are able to bask. So no problem there. They can hide inside here, but having a soil floor allows it to be a humidity sink. So a soil floor that is heavily shaded provides, it's kind of surprising how cool it can be down there. And so what you're doing is you're creating gradients. If you didn't have a soil floor, or the soil floor wasn't deep enough to really be effective, then you end up with kind of a same temperature throughout the cage. Or if there's no soil floor, you're actually going to get the sunlight bouncing off the floor and hitting the chameleon from above or from below, and yeah, you're going to be cooking the chameleon from both sides. So this soil floor really helps you to be able to give them a nice environment to choose from. Now, of course, there's a lot of fun that you can do on the soil floor. I plant nasturtium here, and I love this flower. I get the vining kind, but I also do sweet peas. And there's all sorts of ornamentals. I do freesias, the bulbs. They're non-toxic. And so that's a lot of fun that you can have gardening in these cages. You see that I love passion flower. In the past, I've done the fruiting passion flower, the Passiflora edulis, Frederick, and I literally go into my cage and I harvest passion fruit. So this is the kind of fun that you can have with these planter box cages. All right, I hope through this video you see how easy it is to build yourself one of these planter box cages. And it's worth it to just get another screen cage, and so you have an outdoor cage and an indoor cage. And that way your chameleon can take advantage of whatever outdoor time is good for your part of the country, and they can just go inside whenever they need to. Don't worry, going from one to the other is not going to stress them out. They'll be fine. We talked about this design in the DIY Chameleon Guys video podcast on YouTube. I brought the design that I've been doing for I don't know how many years, and James, who is a professional contractor, carpenter, took a look at it and said, hey, make these changes. And the design that I showed you today is based on those changes. Very happy with it. And so if you go to the Chameleon Academy YouTube channel, you can find the DIY Chameleon Guys podcast playlist, and it's going to be episode 2 and episode 3. And so I wish you absolute happy building. If you build this design, please let me know. You can tag me on an Instagram post. I'm Chameleon Academy on Instagram, or you can send me pictures at bill@chameleonacademy.com. I would love to feature pictures, or better yet, video of your chameleon planter box on the DIY Chameleon Guys video podcast. So send them on over and let the community see what you've done. Thanks for dropping by. It's been wonderful to have you, and good luck on your DIY projects. See you later.